Lava News on Prime, back with you tonight, and we continue looking at what's making news. The Department of Health has published the long-awaited regulations on food labeling and advertising. This comes amid calls for food labels to show amounts of sugar, salt, and unhealthy fats, which are known to increase the risk of obesity, type 2 diabetes, and some cancers. Now, South Africans have until the 21st of July to comment on these draft regulations. For more on this, we are joined now by the head of Healthy Living, Lawrence Mbalati. Good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on here on News at Prime. Put warning labels on unhealthy packaging has been a call for a while. Is this a sign that government is beginning to listen?
Yeah, it is a sign that government is beginning to listen. We are excited in one part that on principle, if we look at the rate of obesity in this country, 1 in 4 children are either obese or overweight. I mean, as men, half of us, 5 in 10, we're either overweight or obese, and 8 in 10 women are either obese. And we know that what is driving the epidemic, diet is at the center of driving the epidemic of overweight and obesity, as you rightfully introduced the session, and the link to its associated non-communicable diseases.
Yeah. Is it because we are eating a lot of the wrong kinds of food, or we assume we are eating in moderation, yet the contents thereof are a little bit more excessive than what we presume they are?
I think it's a bit of both. So we're living in an obesogenic food environment. So we're in the studio now, we're talking, what are we going to buy when we leave? We're going to look for something that is convenient on our way, whether it's a garage or a fast food retail store, retail shop. So our food environment overall, on average, if you look at the food that we eat from breakfast, you look at it from breakfast cereal, we're consuming a lot of food that has got excess amount of sugar, fat, and trans fat. So we are not quite aware that this food does contain that, because what is happening, it's written at the back of the pack in a language that, you know, a layperson does not understand, your sodium, your carbohydrates, and all that. We do not understand that language.
But as food activists, then how do you break that down? How do you decipher that information? How, for example, do you take, I've seen, for example, they do a breakdown of the various cans of cold drink and what each one contains in terms of sugar?
So we have done that practically. So if you go also on our micro site, it's www.healer.org. We have a micro site that says what's in our food. We gave example, for example, a can of cold drink or 500 milliliters of cold drink will contain 5 to 8 spoons of sugar. So we did that. We did those kind of breakdown because I think it's important, even when we're talking about nutrition, because this is the issue of equity, right? Labels are just part of the package, you know, of the holistic approach in terms of people knowing what is in their food. And I think because there is a low literacy level when it comes to understanding of nutrition. So we've been going into provinces. As you know, we've been doing education on food, literacy on food, and we do find that the literacy level on food, or the consciousness on the literacy of food, is very low. And I think we do need to politicize, you know, and also do the science of food as well, as we did with the HIV, because what we know is that the industry has already empowered a big law firm to counter this policy. And this is not something that is new. We've seen it from tobacco, we've seen it from alcohol, that, you know, the industry always try to delegitimize, delay, you know, and deny science and evidence, trying to treat our population as if it's the court. You know, we must find a loophole to make them delay and make them fear to implement. And they have been making pronouncements, you know, because, you know, the industry can be a future prophecy on our lives, on things that we know. And what is good and interesting in this convention, that the WHO has already done the socio-economic impact study in terms of, in countries where this policy has been implemented, has there been things like job losses? Did it impact the economy? I mean, the industry is saying big industry will leave South Africa. We know that South Africa is, you know, a fertile ground, you know, for some of these unhealthy food companies to actually...
So talk for us for something as simple as a sugar tax, and that has been added, and in some instances has led to the sugar contents of some of the soft drinks changing, and others may complain and saying even the taste changed because of that sugar tax. But are we beginning to see the impact of that in terms of the health health benefits.
Yeah. We have seen a very much huge groundbreaking study that was done in South Africa after the tax was implemented. So we have seen, you know, sugar consumption, sugary drink consumption, particularly amongst youth who were higher consumers, up to, you know, slashed up to by half, by 50%, the reduction in the consumption of sugary drinks. So we have seen like a huge turnaround in terms of that. But I think what is actually key is we do need still also to drive the message home in terms of the work that we're doing, right? We need to continue, you know, politicizing, but also bringing the basic understanding of amongst population in terms of understanding nutrition. Because it's only when we have that conscious that all of us can make decisions based on knowledge. But at the moment, unfortunately, what is the food in our food is hidden. And we might think this is a minor issue. Yeah. We got people who are already living with health conditions that have to stick to strict diet. Yeah. My sister is diabetic, right? Yeah. Yeah. She cannot eat certain food because, you know, it will trigger a sugar level. You know, and so it's very important. There are a lot of people already living with high blood pressure who must reduce, you know, in terms of like the consumption of food with high fat and salt content. Right. So this is a very important policy in terms of really addressing, you know, the understanding, because it will raise a lot of awareness in terms of people understanding what is in their food.
So what are the key components to this policy, if you were to put them in simple terms for somebody to understand as they are engaging with it and maybe wanting to have some input?
Yeah, so it's written in a technical language. We have done the simplified way version so that people can definitely understand. So what the policy does in essence, it actually has put threshold on what it terms as an excessive, you know, sugar, salt, and saturated fat. Right. In terms of in the food as ingredients in the food. So it has used things like 400 milligram, 500 milligram as a cut-off point. So if the food does contain that or above, it will have this triangle warning label that is in black and white that will say high in sugar, high in salt, high in saturated fat, yeah. But also if it contains artificial sweeteners. You spoke about the cold drink, yeah. And you know, you have seen the original cold drink, so not saying the brand, and the zero or less sugar. Yeah, yeah, the zero and less sugar happen to be more sweeter. Yeah, and what happens is that they've substituted your sugar, your natural sugar, with artificial sweeteners or non-sugar sweeteners.
But is it that's the harder? I mean, if you're saying part of it is the education, is that I can see it saying so many milligrams of lactose, or I can see it saying so many milligrams of sucrose. I am not really none the wiser as to which one is which and which one is good for me.
Yeah. So, and I think that is the thing that I think, you know, because the biggest problem in the country, even if you look at in terms of the non-communicable disease strategy that government has, is unfunded, right? So that's one of the things that we have been calling, that we need, you know, to have a National Health Commission that can actually fund so that we drive the message home in terms of like really advancing to address the issue of access to nutritious food in this country. So that is one of the biggest problems, because until you have a health scare, yeah. That's when people start to take notice of like, oh, I've got high blood pressure, I must stabilize my high blood pressure. What can I eat? What can I not eat? So I think that is the role of every one of us, to be robust, to bring a revolution in terms of understanding the science and the politics of food.
Yeah. So this is, as you put it, is largely about saying to companies, which of course brand their stuff in all sorts of lifestyle terms, to say, no, this is acceptable. And you're saying once the particular level has been reached, whether you want to brand it as a lifestyle, what, health, what, it must have this triangle that says high in sugar or high in salt or high in fat.
Yeah, and another part of the component of the regulation that I think I haven't spoken about that is absolutely crucial is the marketing part, yeah. Particularly to children. Yeah. So the World Health Organization and UNICEF have actually come up with a recommended regulation which is part of this. So if you look at, for example, breakfast cereal, there are cartoons there that are actually looking to, you know, like take the attention of children. It's not just about the food. So the children want to have that cereal box because it also have the cartoon, you know. You look at the issue of food that we have got celebrities endorsing a product. So if I'm a young person, I associate with Tabamdluli, I want to take that product because I'm looking at my life and like when I grow up, I want to be in TV, I want to be in the newsroom. So those are some of the aspects that also it want to deal with in terms of also restricting marketing to children, because again, it shows, evidence shows that what actually driving the epidemic of obesity in children and young people.
So I mean, we had a craze just recently, I'm sure you know about it, of that particular water that apparently contained crazy amounts of sugar, and it got our kids behaving in all forms of ways. So if this is in place, are you saying products like that would at least be limited in how they are marketed, especially directed at children?
Certainly. So we spoke about that product. And you see how marketed it was. And people here in Joburg, they were breaking stores to buy like at a very high price. So there is a lot of investment that is put, particularly on this ultra-processed food, to actually target it, particularly on the low-income household. That is the most unfortunate part, because this food is punted as cheaper, palatable, convenient as well. So lower-income household, and the studies show that the food environment is by design. So if you look at where like township and low-income households are living, including rural areas, what are the food? How is the food environment? So we did see a study that showed, so for example, in Soweto, every corner you have a fast retail restaurant compared to healthier food options. So there is a lot of work in terms of bringing those issues, because this is the issue of equity, and food is a system. And we need to start to have this kind of intervention to start making a breakthrough in having, a just food system, a food system that can be supportive, that we can afford to buy, that we can have access to nutritious food, that, we have nutritious food available. Then currently the study shows that 80% of the food environment that we are in, which is packaged food, is actually ultra-processed food, 80%. So what are we going to eat?
Lawrence, appreciate your time. Thank you.